Kia ora. Hello. Nau mai. Welcome to the latest episode by Popula Urbanum, which perhaps we could translate to te reo as pa iwi. Today, I'd like to have a quick chat with you about lucet braiding. Part 1, what it is, a brief talk about its use in history, and Part 2, how you can make a lucet cord easily without using an actual lucet tool. I'm Ocean, and this is Popula Urbanum, a show where we talk about reenactment and the medieval middle class. Lucet braiding is a very easy technique used for making slender cords. These cords are relatively quick to make, durable, and have a good amount of stretch. They seem to lend themselves to applications such as drawstrings and laces, points for hose and armour, and other applications in recreating the Middle Ages, a time before the convenience of garment fastenings such as zips and hook and loop tape. Part 1. The basic principle of making a lucet cord is the same as that of the knitting Nancy, which some of you may be familiar with from childhood. Knitting Nancies can have many prongs and can produce large tubes of work and can even be manipulated to produce flat panels of knitting. The lucet, however, comes equipped with only 2 prongs and produces a braid that is square in cross-section. But can we support their use in the medieval period with evidence? There is some tentative evidence for their production in the form of early medieval excavated tools that may have been used for the task of weaving a lucet braid. These include bone, antler, and bronze Anglo-Scandinavian Anglo-Scandinavian finds from perhaps as early as the 7th century to perhaps as late as the 13th century, with most seeming to be bone artifacts clustered around, say, the 10th to 12th centuries. I'm not sure what sort of applications this kind of cordage would have been most useful for in those periods. Hose would have required suspension, and perhaps later on bleods might have required lacing, although the earlier side-laced garments I've seen they look to have used some sort of medieval equivalent of a rouleau or a narrow closed fabric strip to lace the side openings. There is always the need for drawstrings, however, as a simple way to fasten and gather things. There is a fragment of braid from 11th century Gotland, Sweden, which has been described as possibly being a lucet cord, but to me it appears different, perhaps being an 8-strand plaited braid. Of course, it's difficult to know without the ability to closely examine the fragment. The conventional wisdom seems to be that there was no evidence for lucet braiding after this early medieval period until it resurfaces in the 17th century. However, I wasn't able to find any examples of 17th century lucets or lucet braids. I did find 1 or 2 lucets from the 18th century for sale as antiques, and these look a lot like modern items that we see sold to reenactors as tools for creating lucet braids. Those of you reenacting the 18th century and later, who might have inexplicably strayed here, might find this next tutorial useful. Part 2. The fact is that you can use a variety of 2-pronged instruments to make a lucet braid, including the pointer finger and thumb of one hand. That's the method I'm going to show you today. You can use any yarn, but I find that wool yarn works best. DK yarn or double knit yarn works well and produces a cord that is a little on the thick side. You can try wool yarn that is closer to historical weights and see how it performs if you like. There's a little bit of experimental archaeology homework for you. I'm using DK or double knit yarn today because it's easier to pick up on camera, and it's also a standard yarn weight that most people are familiar with. So here are your 2 prongs, okay? And your yarn, your work forms up here, just across your palm, and it's controlled by your remaining 3 fingers here. I'm right-handed. I use my right hand to form the work on, and I loop with my left hand, but just use whatever configuration works for you. So I'll grab my wool, which is just down here in my little basket. Now you take the end of the yarn. I just control it with my last 2 fingers and you make 1 loop around you. I prefer to begin with my pointer finger, and then you make your 2nd loop around your other finger with your thumb, and you can see that that is a figure 8 formation. Yeah, so that will be you'll continue to use that formation as you work along. Now you make a 3rd loop in front of your 1st loop. Yeah, now you take your 1st loop and you lift it in front of the 3rd one, and you just kind of tighten that, maintaining a hold on your original loose tail of yarn. So now you have your 3rd loop and your 2nd loop remaining on the fingers, your loose tail, and this goes to your ball of yarn. You're going to use the end that goes to your ball of yarn to make your 4th loop, and that will be in front of your second loop. Yeah, so that goes there in front of your 2nd loop. You lift your 2nd loop over in front of your 4th loop, and then you just tighten that. There, now you have 2 loops on your 2 fingers again. You have your 3rd loop and your 4th loop. Now you're just going to repeat that whole process again, alternating from finger to finger. So the next one will be on your pointer finger, and then the loop following that will be on your thumb, back to the pointer finger, and so on. Okay, so I'll just do another stitch. There you go. Don't forget to take care of your tension. So the tension for that loop that I just did will come, the adjustment will come from the previous loop that I made. Now it's just getting a little bit big, so I'll just try and take some of that excess out by controlling the size of these loops, and the excess is pulled back towards the ball of yarn. There we go. Here's how you finish it off. Take it through one loop and then the other to stop it unraveling. Because it's a chained cord, unless you do this, it will unravel. There you have it, all done. Conclusion. Lucet braiding has advantages over the proven medieval methods of narrow cord production, finger looping, plaiting and tablet weaving. You can produce a continuous braid without having to first measure out a warp. The work also does not tend to tangle as you weave, which does happen with tablet weaving and plaiting. Long pieces of finger looping require a second pair of hands to beat the weft as you work, and this is not required for making a lucet cord. It's also very quick and easy, as you've probably noticed from the tutorial you just watched. So, should you use a lucet cord as part of your medieval impression? I guess the jury's out. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but the burden of proof seems to lie with proving the positive. We have no definite examples of lucet cords or tools from the period, but there is some suggestion that they may have been present. If they were present in the early medieval, was the knowledge somehow lost for hundreds of years, or did it go out of fashion? I will leave this one up to your discretion as a living historian. Perhaps you have found some compelling evidence to confirm the use of lucet cords in the Middle Ages. If you have, please comment below or join our Discord for some lively and respectful discourse on the topic. If you would like some tutorials on how to produce late medieval cords that are supported by evidence, I have some video tutorials where I show you how to reproduce 2 extant 14th century tablet woven braids, linked below. There is also an excellent collection of videos by Loopbraider on YouTube where you can enjoy a very detailed tutorial on how to make finger looped braids, also linked below. If you want, you can let me know how I went with my reo. Feel free to comment below. Oh hey, I didn't see you there. I guess this means you must have enjoyed the video, so have fun, stay safe and keep reenacting.